Okay.
To math, because math.
I gotta pee. I'll be back.
They want to get rid of the idea that there are naturally gifted children. They said they're not allowed to say that they're naturally gifted children anymore.
Isn't that the case with New York as well? Didn't they get?
Yeah,
rid of
they're trying to get rid of the magnet schools over there too.
But gifted programs. Right?
Yes, the gifted programs, because there's too many Asian kids. America's white supremacist, so all the Asians are succeeding.
I love that narrative. So, no, what are they trying to do with math?
So it was this article in the New York Times, and I'm trying to remember all the details. They said you're not allowed to talk about naturally gifted kids. You're not supposed to reward right answers or punish wrong answers.
What?
So there's like a big kind of parents' revolt going on in California over this, because the idea was that there was too much racial disparity in math performance in California, and so changed the standards. Which, by the way, I can't think of anything more racist than that.
No,
that is so super racist. It's like not enough black kids are scoring well on the test. That means that black kids, I guess, are too dumb to do well on these tests. Get rid of the tests. Or alternatively, there's an explanation where kids need to study more.
Well, you only find out if someone knows things if you test them. It's the only way you find out. How else do you find out? You have to say, show me how to do this problem. And then the kid tries and you go, oh, that's not how you do it.
By the way, I think this is I think the scam that is college is predicated on society trying to get around the basic truth that you just said, which is we can tell by test scores whether you know things and are good at
Dog, you went to Harvard Law, bro. Shut up. Jesus fucking Christ. Motherfucker went to UCLA undergrad and then Harvard Law. He's like, college is a scam. It's like, yeah, it's a scam if you want to make sure that your fucking audience stays dumb. It's so annoying, dude. Fucking hate these people so much. Bro, I was in the gifted program and it literally doesn't do shit other than give you an inflated ego. I don't know. I was not a gifted kid and I'm not a gifted person in general. I'm a fucking idiot. Okay? But even as stupid as I am, I still recognize that, education is overall a good thing, okay? It's a good thing. Not a bad thing. It's a fucking good thing. So shut the fuck up about how it's a bad thing. Oh my Lord, it pisses me off whenever motherfuckers say that. Colleges are a liberal breeding ground, which is why I went to Harvard, and I'm a conservative dipshit. Well, first of all, Harvard is very conservative, and neoliberalism is what you learn when you go to college. The only difference is that you're put in a diverse environment. So, of course, you're still hyper conservative when it comes to economics, but at the very least, you're a little bit more understanding of social justice and social issues as a consequence of living in a rather diverse environment. And also because they do teach you a little bit of social justice. They pump it into your brain a little bit. Now, only if you're a gigantic asshole would you ever consider that to be a bad thing. I can't believe we're teaching kids empathy. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? How is that a bad thing, you fucking asshole? But even then, it's too much.
things.
Well, I mean, obviously there's some tests that favor people that have grown up in certain environments because you have more access to certain kinds of information. But once you teach people and then you test them, there's only one way to find out whether or not they know the information. They have to be tested. Like the idea that you're going to eliminate tests and somehow make things more equitable or more even is kind of crazy.
Actually, what you're going to do is you're going to make people more racist is what you're going to do. And the reason for that is because Thomas Sowell talks about this. He talks about different types of discrimination. And he says there's group discrimination where you base your perception of an individual on the group data that is available. And then there's like discrimination, which is you know that a person is smart and they're of a group you don't like, and so you just ignore the fact they're smart because they're from that group. So the two examples that he gives, right, is let's say that you're walking down the street at night and it's in an inner city neighborhood and there's a black guy walking down the street and he's wearing a hoodie and he's a young guy, 17 years old. Are you going to cross the street or not if the opposing example is an 80-year-old white woman? Right? And he says, well, you know, based on the group statistics, you're probably going to cross the street more often if it's the 17-year-old black kid than if it's the 80-year-old white woman. Now, let's say that 17-year-old white kid, that 17-year-old black kid, you know the kid. He's a nice kid. If you still cross the street, that's what makes you like a super giant racist.
What? Dude, what the fuck is this? Like, so much of what Ben Shapiro says, what Ben Shapiro says is so fucking stupid, dude. Like, I don't even understand. Like, he's just like, he's literally doing self-reporting on the timeline while simultaneously. Yeah. Racism is when you don't know every black person personally. Or sorry. Racism is only when you know a black person and you still are afraid of them. What the fuck? My man just described racial bias and then said it's not racist if you have racial bias. I can't tell. Maybe I misunderstood. I got to run this back. I'm sorry.
You're going to make people more racist is what you're going to do. And the reason for that is because Thomas Sowell talks about this. He talks about different types of discrimination. And he says there's group discrimination where you base your perception of an individual on the group data that is available. And then there's like discrimination, which is you know that a person is smart and they're of a group you don't like, and so you just ignore the fact they're smart because they're from that.
Dude, both of those are still discriminatory, you fucking idiot. Looking at group data? Why is this still an argument in 2021? In the year of our holy Lord, why is it still a reasonable argument to make? It's also one that you never make about the default position, a white man. White men are responsible for an overwhelming amount of pedophilia, okay? Does that mean that, like, you suspect every white man is a pedophile? No, that would be discriminatory against white men. It's also not something that people do. It's nuts. Like, the whole point is you're literally fucking biased against black people, and you're trying to ad hoc justify that by claiming, well, the data makes it reasonable for me to be biased against black people and be afraid of black people. Like, you don't think that, like, every white man is a fucking mass shooter and a pedophile? And I know people in the chat are going to meme like, oh, I do, though. I do. Yeah, I got it, bro. Really funny. Men are trash. Men are trash. And then they fucking turn around and go, statistics are racist. Statistics are racist. It's like, no, dude. Statistics are not racist. Your interpretation and what you extrapolate from the data is racist, you dumb bitch. Yeah, if you look at it and go, well, sorry, black men are more violent inherently, or not inherently. He won't say that, obviously. And that's that's what the data shows without even looking at the data and what it actually says. And then also on top of that, jump to the conclusion that, like, every black person that you see, well, you know, you have a higher likelihood of being biased against them because you are operating in the underlying assumption that they're more violent because the data says so. Then yeah, you're doing racism with extra steps, okay? You have an inherent bias against black people, and you're using a couple extra steps to try to describe why that's a justifiable bias to have. It doesn't mean that you don't have a bias. You do have one. You are admitting that you have one, but then you're simultaneously trying to justify why you have it. So don't act like the conversation is about, like, whether you have a bias or not. The conversation now is why you have that bias, okay? It's such a weird fucking take to just, like, constantly say this over and over again. And, like, this is a big chunk of what the Republican argument revolves around. And the greatest example of this is looking at arrest records and extrapolating that, like, black people are more violent as a consequence of that, and then using that to justify over-policing black communities, which is literally a cyclical problem. We know that when there are more cops, there are more arrests. We know that cops also tend to be very biased and prosecute and go after black people at higher rates. Looking at something as simple as marijuana use, for example, white people and black people, depending on where you look at, consume weed at a similar rate. And in some instances, actually, white people smoke more weed than black people do. But when you look to the actual data, black people are arrested way more frequently than white people do for crimes that revolve around marijuana. and also get longer sentences, even when you control the other factors at play. It's just the reality. So if you simply look at the fucking arrest records without recognizing any sort of like historical context, without even, if you just look at arrest records, it's not even like conviction rates or anything like that. But even then, even with conviction rates, there's still, again, the fact that like if your community is being biased against and they're being heavily persecuted for something that other people do as well, all you're doing is basically trying to put together a patchwork reason for the biases that you believe in. All the discrepancies in stop and frisk laws, for example, exactly. And it exists in like nearly every fucking part of the criminal justice system. It's such a dishonest thing. It's so, like, Ben Shapiro is so dishonest that he refuses to, even mention any of this stuff.
That group. So the two examples that he gives, right, is let's say that you're walking down the street at night and it's in an inner city neighborhood and there's a black guy walking down the street and he's wearing a hoodie and he's a young guy, 17 years old. Are you going to cross the street or not if the opposing example is an 80-year-old white woman? Right? And he says, well, based on the group statistics, you're probably going to cross the street more often if it's the 17-year-old black kid than if it's the 80-year-old white woman. Now, let's say that 17-year-old white kid, that 17-year-old black kid, you know the kid. He's a nice kid. If you still cross the street, that's what makes you like a super giant racist.
Yeah, that's idiotic, dude. Yeah. Everybody knows that, the Nazis and what they did in the Holocaust was bad only because they personally knew all the Jews beforehand. Like, okay, dude, got it. Good. You can only be racist if you fucking know the person beforehand and you still act out on the biased desires. What a fucking insane, absolutely insane fucking take, dude. Yeah, discrimination and racism only exists if you know someone and you still decide that they are lesser than. Great take.
In the former case, you're just using the group data available. The problem.
Comparing a dude walking down the street to a Nazi? No, I'm talking about the comparison there is not that these are similar levels of crimes. The comparison there is about the idiotic, the idiotic premise that he has. Rather than looking at the consequence of one's actions, or rather looking at the person's actions instead, you try to fucking change the subject to, oh, you just know someone. No, the reason why it's racist is because you have a bias against black people and you're trying to fucking make that bias stick by adding a faulty read on data. Okay?
Problem is that using group data available very often is wrong, right? What if the 17-year-old kid is a nice kid, right? You shouldn't be doing that either. You need specific data. Test data is specific data. So let's say now that you are an administrator at a college and you're not allowed to use test data. All you know is that on average, black kids score lower than white kids, right? So who do you let in? How do you make that decision? Wouldn't it be better for black kids for you to have the test data because you know which black kids definitely deserve to get in as opposed to which ones don't deserve to get in? So you start using stupid generalizations. The whole point is more specific data is better. More specific data fights discrimination. And yet we have this whole weird idea that if we get rid of specific data, if we get rid of test data, objective data, this is going to end discrimination. Precisely the reverse will occur. People will start using stupid stereotypes.
Okay, so I don't even know exactly what he's talking about, but I guess this is going to be the new the new conservative battleground. So I guess, crack our knuckles and learn about what this new thing that conservatives want to fucking cry about. So let's take a look. California tries to close the gap in math, but sets off a backlash. Proposed guidelines in the state would de-emphasize calculus, reject the idea that some children are naturally gifted, and build a connection to social justice. Critics say math shouldn't be political. If everything had gone according to plan, California would have approved new guidelines this month in math and education in public schools. But ever since the draft was open for public commentary in February, their recommendations have set a fierce debate over not only how to teach math, but also how to solve a problem more intractable than Fermat's last theorem, closing the racial and socioeconomic disparities in achievement that persist at every level of math education. So, I am a leftist. I believe that the disparity in education directly ties to what we talked about yesterday for a very long time. It goes back to systemic racism. It goes back to redlining. It goes back to how to distribute the property taxes in localities back to those very wealthy and historically white, predominantly white neighborhoods that end up having good education, okay, in their public schooling system versus the material inequality that's built into the system for black people as a consequence of redlining, as a consequence of not having enough intergenerational wealth, as a consequence of slavery, as a consequence of Jim Crow laws, and the like. There's a reason why, if you are living in fucking Crenshaw, your opportunities in education are way worse than if you literally live in a rich neighborhood like Beverly Hills. Okay? So the way to solve that problem is by addressing the material inequality, by reshifting our priorities to fund public education adequately in all neighborhoods, maybe even funding black and brown neighborhoods or poor neighborhoods more, so that we can create a reasonable level of equality in our public education system. Now, of course, Democrats and Republicans both do not want to address that, because that would mean taking taxes away from wealthy people and reappropriating those taxes back into neighborhoods where poor people live, neighborhoods where black people live. And God forbid we fucking do that. So instead of doing that, Democrats suggest charter schools, which further cripple the public education system, take funds that are already in this like destitute and broken down system that gets breadcrumbs, take those remaining funds away from them and give it to unaccountable private schools that are charter schools, right? And then say, oh, you get a voucher, school choice. Or fully privatize schooling, which has demonstrably been a failure in a place like Sweden, for example, which is why they immediately abandoned that when they saw their test scores fucking fail across the board. There are numerous examples when you look at OECD nations of privatization in the K through 12 education system being a gigantic problem as it pertains to the schooling that individuals are receiving. So if Ben wants to talk about data, when it comes to schooling, public education, adequately funded public education, is always going to beat out a patchwork system that we have, just like every other patchwork system that we have that has been a demonstrable failure, like healthcare. Okay? Abandoned lol, it's still going on. Yeah, I mean, not entirely abandoned, but so, having said all of that, what did the California libtards do? What is this? Lol, Hasan is some of the most deranged hate followers on earth. I'm getting far-right creeps citing fake FBI crime statistics in my mentions now, while saying that a black radical leftist who kills white right-wingers would be reelected the next president of the United States. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, I deal with them every day. Anyway, that was besides the point. Let's get back to the main point at hand, what we were talking about. And that is California trying to solve the inequality in education. So instead of solving the inequality in education with material restitution or by addressing the material inequalities, they are going to try doing all this other dumb shit. Okay? Yes, everything was restocked. The orange was restocked. All the hoodies are restocked. You can purchase them now. California guidelines, which are not binding, could overhaul the way many school districts approach the math instruction. Draft rejected the idea of naturally gifted children, recommended against shifting certain students into accelerated courses in middle school, and try to promote high-level math courses that could serve as alternatives to calculus like data science or statistics. The draft also suggested that math should not be colorblind and that teachers could use lessons to explore social justice, for example, by looking at gender stereotypes and word problems for applying math concepts like the topic of immigration or inequality. What the fuck? What? Fucking hate liberals so much. It's like they will literally do anything but give black people money, okay? It's just like just give black people money. Just please, just literally stop this, okay? What the fuck? What the fuck is this? What are you doing? Like they will literally do anything, okay? Like how? How do you do this? How? Just fucking. Oh my God. Like what is this? Like in a math class? Like we're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about gender stereotypes and apply math concepts to topics like immigration or inequality. Like, what are you solving when you do that? Ultimately, this is like inconsequential. Okay, it literally doesn't matter. Getting upset at this one way or the other is idiotic and pathetic, and that's precisely what conservatives do. I'm mad at it because this does not address anything, okay? This doesn't address any of the fucking problems, and it just makes you feel good. Why is it always about like feel-good solutions to material inequality? Oh God, we can't tax people. We can't reappropriate funds to people that need it, but we'll make you feel better. We'll make ourselves feel better like we're doing something. It's like one big endless sequence of fucking patting yourself on the back for, I did something, okay? The battle over math comes at a time when education policy on issues including mass testing, teaching about racism has become entangled with bitter partisan debates. Even in heavily Democratic California, a state with 6 million public school students and outsized influence on textbook publishing nationwide, the draft guidelines encounter scathing criticism with charges that the framework would inject woke politics into a subject that's supposed to be practical and precise. Like, what the fuck? It is lawn sign liberalism. Exactly. That's a perfect term for it. In this house, black people are human beings unless they want to come into my neighborhood, in which case I will call the cops on them. Here's an example from my textbook. Tupac has 6 handguns in his baggy pants. I think he has 4 guns in his oversized hoodie. How many handguns do these thugs have together? Yeah. We're solving the issue. We did a really good job. Like some fucking racist person. It's just like racist liberalism. As a person who loves math, this would have made me hate math. I mean, like, it's just so stupid. Like, who are you helping with this? It's a super minor point in the overall plan that is an aesthetic bombshell for the right. Absolutely. All right, liberals don't see the problem as a material inequality. They see a ghost in the machine of institutions which do enforce racism, but mainly through classism, which overtly affects black people and other minorities. Like, if Donald Trump is locking up, 5 kids in cages, and Joe Biden ends up locking up 3 kids in cages, which president should deserve to win re-election? Like, that's your immigration baked into fucking math, dude. Come on, we're learning algebra today, kids. People will really go to battle for math to say the same. Like, none of these motherfuckers know about math, like math, literally don't want math to be taught if it were up to them. But when God forbid you add like you sprinkle a little bit of fucking wokeness on it, okay? All of a sudden everyone's like, whoa, what the fuck? I said teached. Maybe English should be teached. Maybe you should fucking speak 2 languages fluently and better than native speakers. And then we can have that conversation, American dummies. Okay? Sometimes I fuck up. Suck my dick. Yes, we have a stated nation that hates math and is not doing well with it. Critics of the draft said authors would punish high achievers by limiting options for gifted programs. An open letter signed by hundreds of Californians working in science and technology described the draft as an endless river of new pedagogical fads that effectively distort and displace actual math. Williamson, senior fellow, I think it's really not right. Distrust over the draft made it to Fox News. Yeah, I love using the shut the fuck up on ESL to make fun of motherfuckers that make fun of my typos. Yeah, exactly. Isn't it trying to address the difference between testing scores of poor and wealthy neighborhoods? I'm not saying this is a good attempt, but maybe in the right direction. No, it's not in the fucking right direction. If you want to solve the problem of like poor testing in test scores in black neighborhoods versus white ones, you have to solve the problem of reallocation and redistribution of funds. That's it. If you trap funds into the specific districts where people are paying higher taxes on their fucking, on their property, that then directly funds the school in that district, which then also creates a cycle where your house is more expensive year over year because now you're in a good school district rather than a bad school district. You know what I mean? It all still ties back to the fucking investment vehicle concept that people have over shelter, which is really fucking triggering and annoying. But that's how it works. But God forbid, dude, you think these fucking liberals, oh my Lord, you think these liberals even for a second would allow their fucking taxes that they pay, their high property taxes that they pay for their nice homes in fucking California would go to like a different neighborhood? Oh, God forbid, dude. You know motherfuckers would lose their shit, okay? They would lose their shit. Sandy's trying to implement new racially sensitive affirmation action testing policies. She knows that the mean scores for white and black students are separated by 10%, but the median score is only 2%. Utilizing statistical analysis, explain why this difference may signal underlying racial issues. Anyway, it also promoted something called detracking, which keeps students together longer instead of separating high achievers in the advanced class before high school. I don't know if that's a bad thing. Is that a bad thing? Is there like data that shows that like putting kids in like a higher level, like immediately advancing certain kids is a bad thing? Or I mean, not bad thing, sorry. Like instead of keeping them in the same level with other people so they can help others as well as a teacher, it's a good thing. Ben Shapiro's walking down the street. What is the possibility that he crosses the street? It doesn't help the ones struggling. Yeah, I feel like it's probably better for the ones that are struggling. Because all of a sudden, the students that are left behind are neglected. Further neglected. You know? But I don't know. There might be research that proves me wrong. And I genuinely don't know. But I suspect that like having a different tiered education system might hurt the people that are left behind. You know? The San Francisco Unified School District already does something similar. Their middle school math students are not split up, but rather take an integrated course, meaning to build their understanding year by year, though older high school students can still opt into high-level classes like calculus. Sophia Alema Yehu, 16, a high school junior in San Francisco, advanced along the integrated track, even though she did not always consider herself a gifted math student. But maybe I am good at math. The model has been in place since 2014, yielding a few years of data on retention and diversity has been picked over by experts on both sides of the detracking debate. So there is some data on it. I ultimately don't know. But what I do know is this, and this has been proven time and time again. If you fund schools adequately, okay, instead of locking school funding into immediate districts where property values are higher and therefore property taxes are higher, you are going to be able to get better education results across the board. So more funding is necessary, not less. But unfortunately, both Democrats and Republicans advocate for less funding. whether it's advocating for charter schools or straight up school voucher programs for private schools. Both of those things take away funds from the public schooling system and redistribute those funds back to unaccountable private schools. Some of which who fail, by the way. But because they're unaccountable, it doesn't even fucking matter. They can even, in certain instances, charter schools can literally fail in the middle of the school year. So after this Ben Shapiro video, there's another one. We're going to move on to the Facebook's odd metaverse move. I really want to know what else Ben Shapiro talked about. I hope there's more clips because this is kind of boring so far. Here's proof you're right. What Americans keep ignoring about Finland's school success. Well, I do know this. Yes. Yes, I do know. I base most of my analysis on schooling in the United States of America from a country that is profoundly successful, demonstrably successful with its education, Finland. Mogul moves, easy clap.
And you know how, like, so I saw, you know how Hasan's doing, like, really ethically sourced merch? That has, like, not, admittedly, not as good margins, but also he's donating a lot of it. I'm doing none of that. This is coming straight out of a factory inside of a factory. The maximum age that I asked for at the factory is 5. So that shit's going to be cheap as fuck. It's going to come quick. And I get all the profit, baby. Woo! Let's go!
A lot of for-profit voucher schools in Sweden went bankrupt middle of school years. Yeah. My city voted down additional school funding, which would have been less than a 100-year property tax increase. They are using the same books from when I was in school and graduated in 05. Yeah. Your community of greedy and annoying trust fund kids who buy all the merch in the middle of the week with their mommy's card is such bullshit. It's a spit in the face of wages who get paid on Fridays. Unlike your top of the hour ad breaks that run every hour and don't have to worry about being paid on a certain day. Well, that's right. But you do still have to worry about whether or not you have a free Twitch Prime subscription or at least $5 to be able to subscribe to avoid said ad breaks. I'm going to use that as a layup. Instead of getting mad, you know what? That was really good. I'm just going to fucking, I'm going to take that L and I'm going to move on with it. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 60-second ad break. It was very well done, chatter. And if you no longer want to see those ads, if you don't want a 2-tiered education system, or if you don't want a 2-tiered ad watching system, all you need to do is subscribe. And you can subscribe for $5, or you can subscribe for free with a Twitch Prime. And then save that $5. Okay? Go invest that $5, in a Gary Vaynerchuk YouTube video, so you can learn how to make at least $69. So you can purchase the Peepo hoodie that was now restocked at ideology.shop. These are the real mogul moves, baby. Or you could just fucking subscribe for $5 or for free with the Twitch Prime to avoid the ad break that's coming right now. Every time I leave a meeting and unmute Azan, I have to hear the ad break. Hey, Anorak Stack allowed 25 people to fucking avoid the ad breaks. Thank you, Anorak Stack. Gifting 25 subs. Literally bought my hoodie and Bernie shirt from the seat of my forklift. And we got forklift certified boys in here. There was no leftovers podcast last week, but because I was in Vegas, but there will be one this week. Forklift boys. Yeah, speaking of forklifts, I did see the Terry Crews Amazon vid, and I will be watching the Terry Crews Amazon vid. Don't you worry about it, but later. I just said I haven't had sexual relations in months. I miss it now, so now I jog outside in flip-flops to remember the sound. Damn, dude, you're having some fucking wet lays, bro. Flip, 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 flip. Don't worry, if you get the fucking hoodie, you will literally continue your streak of not having sex. Let's be real. These are Virgin approved merchandise. I wonder if anyone's ever picked up someone wearing my merch and exclusively because it was a conversation starter that ended up having
The Joe Rogan experience.
It must have happened. I see sometimes people send me like fucking people wearing the merch on their like dating app profiles and shit. Good way to fucking eliminate me in Vancouver. Wait, really? So many people. What the fuck? Okay, I think people are lying. There's no shot.
Talk about the metaverse because like I'm really fascinated by this decision of Facebook to change the name of Facebook to Meta and to the metaverse, which I think people are just gonna they're gonna like
I've matched the guy on Tinder just because he was wearing your merch. Hell yeah.
They're gonna realize that this is a crazy idea that you're gonna give your life to some sort of augmented or virtual reality world that's created by a guy who's involved in this company whose algorithms are sowing the seeds of distrust and hate all through. But now we're gonna fucking let him take over what you see and feel because you're gonna have a new company, and this new company.
By the way, when people say, like, when Joe Rogan says, like, you're sowing the seeds, the algorithm is sowing the seeds of hatred or whatever the fuck, he doesn't literally mean the algorithms are, actually creating people to believe in vaccine misinformation or are responsible for, like, a genocide in Myanmar or are, actively fucking creating a situation where, like, basically there's adult onset schizophrenia that, like, 90% of conservatives are brought upon themselves, where they like literally think in this psychotic delusion that the government is run by fucking pedophilic vampire monsters and shit like that. He means the opposite. Like, conservatives are getting fucking owned on the timeline, and that's bad. And they actually are hiding the truth about ivermectin. So just remember, which is of course ridiculous.
Is going to be virtually reality based, where he's literally he reenacted a scene from Black Mirror.
Yeah, well,
which is unironically.
I know, and you know what makes me a little.
Yeah, like imagine sitting across from Ben motherfucking Shabibo. Ben, Facebook is my primary platform, Shabibo, and criticizing the Facebook algorithm, which, of course, Ben has like made a living shitting on the Facebook algorithm. Crying to fucking legislators, crying to people that actually have lobbying power to lobby Facebook to change its algorithm in an effort that favors him, who is literally one of the most successful broadcasters on the platform. Who he will still, of course, cry about, oh man, conservatives are getting owned on Facebook.
Sad. I think that it's going to happen.
You think it's going to happen?
Yeah, I think that you and I are of a different generation, dude. I think there are a lot of kids who are growing up in Fortnite world and spend a lot, and I think the pandemic really accelerated this. There are a lot of people who lived online for the entire pandemic, and so for people like me and for people like my parents, not seeing other humans for a long time was actually quite painful and terrible. Like, we actually did want to get out and be with the community and see friends and do that sort of stuff. What if you spend your entire life, from the time you're a little kid, interacting with screens? What if those screens are getting increasingly sophisticated so that they are...
What if those screens actually have someone like, I don't know, socialist Twitch streamer, this Hasanabi guy, okay, Hasanabi. He's out here talking about socialism this, socialism that. Why doesn't he socialize some bitches?
Or interacting with you in ways that humans would. What if you get to be whatever, like, we're a society, we were just talking about this, where you get to be whatever you want to be? What if there's a world where you actually can be and everybody sees you the way you want to be seen? Would you rather live there where you're like rich and good looking and everybody likes you? Or would you rather live in the real world where you're disconnected from all of that and you end up with like Ready Player One world? I think
it's going to happen. It's as long as it.
Did he say tall? Oh no, I missed it. I gotta run that again.
I think
it's going to happen.
Real world. What if you get to be whatever?
What if you get to?
We're a society where.
What if you get to live in a world where you can please your wife and she no longer has to sleep in a separate bed in a separate room away from you? And what if you live in a world where your wife actually does have a wet ass P word rather than a dry ass P word.
We were just talking about its entire life, from the time you're a little kid interacting with screens. What if those screens are getting increasingly sophisticated so that they are interacting with you in ways that humans would? What if you get to be whatever, like, we're a society, we were just talking about this, where you get to be whatever you want to be? What if there's a world where you actually can be and everybody sees you the way you want to be seen? Would you rather live there where you're like rich and good looking and everybody likes you? Or would you rather live in the real world where...
Oh, man. He didn't say tall. I got you baited into thinking he actually said tall. That would have been fucking sick. That would have been funny as fuck, dude. If you're like tall and play basketball and you're actually good,
where you're disconnected from all of that and you end up with like Ready Player One world. I think
it's going to happen.
It's
as long as it can become indistinguishable from reality, which it will be able to be. It's going to take time, whether it's 5 years or 10 years. If you go back and look at Pong, which was the first game that I ever saw when I was a child, it's
freaking boomer, dude. I mean, this guy plays Quake.
Ridiculous. It's like a white ball that bounces across, and you have a straight
two
line.
paddles. Yep,
that's a paddle, and it's the dumbest game that you could never convince a child to play today. They'd be like, "Get the fuck out of here with that stupid game." I can go play.
That's actually not even true, though. Like, I don't even think that that's true. I think people still play like versions of that game regularly. Another example is Snake, right? So I had a Nokia phone back in the day, indestructible, by the way. They literally had to stop them because you could never destroy them. So the company went bankrupt because it was just the most powerful thing on the planet. Survives like nuclear winter. Tetris is another game. It's like one of the earliest games developed. Snake is another game. There are versions of those games that people still play. So that's not even true. They're just like brilliant fucking games and people still absolutely play that.
A fucking Halo, right? But back then, when I was a child, that was a big deal. If you go in the future from now, what they have available now with these insane video graphics, the Unreal Engine, and then move yourself 20 years in the future, it's going to be indistinguishable.
And the AI is getting better and better in terms of being able to imitate human behavior, in terms of being able to innovate on its own.
And haptic feedbacks.
Oh, remember when everybody yelled at me about the cop thing? And I was like, cops routinely lie about fentanyl-related things, so that's an immediate red flag. Houston police chief said they located the security guard who they initially heard was pricked in the neck, and he says no one injected him. He says he was punched, not injected. It was bad info, the chief says. Crazy. Dude, cops literally, anytime you hear a cop, what did I say? Anytime you hear a cop talk about how like he was being discriminated against in a fast food restaurant, or anytime you hear about a cop saying, wait, hold on, I want to fucking do this again. I want to actually, wait, oops. Anytime you hear a cop fucking say, I'm going to tweet that out. Anytime you hear about a cop lying about fucking being discriminated against at a fast food chain, or about like dying because they saw fentanyl, immediately know that they're lying. Like, it's just like, it's a lie like 98% of the time. It's so sus. Like, I'll always wait for further information, but I'll be very skeptical about it. Okay? Case involving or being discriminated. I'm going to say Hasanabi rule. Shy tweeter. Anytime you hear a cop talk about a case involving fentanyl or being discriminated against, it is. Don't do that Hasanabi rule. No, I'm doing that now. I'm doing that. I'm doing rules now. I'm flushing out my ideology, my worldview. I am now a fashion designer. Okay, now not only am I a fashion designer, but also on top of that, I have rules now. Yeah, Marxist-Leninist pikerism, baby. I don't tolerate racism towards cops. I mean, it is true. Cops do have a very specific skull density that makes them cops. Facebook algo is censoring us. The top 10 performing link posts by U.S. Facebook pages in the last 24 hours are from Ben Shapiro, Dan Bongino, All K-Pop, NPR, Dan Bongino, Newsmax, twice, Ben Shapiro, MSN Latam. I guess MSN Latin America?
Suits and all these different things and all these video games that they have that emulate sports. They're getting so close. When you watch these basketball games and the UFC has a game, when you watch these the players, the fighters move around, like, God, it's so close. It's not quite there, but they're getting better and better with each iteration, and it's just a matter of time.
And what I wonder is if we are innovating ourselves, and when it comes to this stuff, if we're innovating ourselves out of existence as a civilization.
But don't you think that's probably where this goes, no matter what?
No, I think then the barbarians come to the gate. I think that's what happens.
Really?
Because the real world still exists. So if you innovate an entire generation of people, and let's just take this on the most baseline demographic level, none of them get married, none of them have babies. In 2 generations, this ain't going to matter. You're going to have a good time in the virtual reality, and then there are going to be no babies to carry this on. And the only people on Earth are going to be religious Jews, religious Catholics.
What the fuck? Dude, this is like, I mean, this is just madness. Like this, every part of this take is just like insane, dude. I don't know how else to describe it other than just like, what a psychotic fucking take, dude.
Catholics and religious Muslims, and that's it.
The vulnerability lies in the power grid. The power
My
grid
man said slippery slopes. I slide down them, okay? I not only am the size of a child and have the brain of one, I also slide on slippery slopes like a child. Do you understand?
So vulnerable that if someone just detonated the power grid, all this stuff stops, and then you have no life. Your life is completely, you've invested it completely in this augmented world, this virtual world. But this virtual world, all you have to do is pull the plug, and it's out. And it's out for millions of people. It's like the equivalent of dropping a nuclear bomb on a culture. Like if you really all live inside of a computer system, some sort of a
VR, it's virtual reality. Yeah, no, that's right. And what I fear is that when you do that to a civilization, it's basically the equivalent of you bring in a wild animal and you put it in a cage for a long time, and now you can't release it back in the wild, right? It's going to get eaten. What happens to you as a civilization? Right? What happens if you've taken an entire generation of people, told them that their entire life exists online, they don't have to interact with other humans, they don't have to interact in human ways with other humans, and then there's like an entire other Earth out there that isn't doing any of this. Right? By the way, China's not doing this. Right?
No.
China's banned.
This is like not true. It's literally not true. They take like 1 or 2 things from China that fits their narrative, and they're like, China's not doing this. They're actually doing the opposite. It's like, no, you read one article that was like immediately falsified like a day later, and you just think that that's what's going on in China. That's not even happening in China.
Banning it.
Yeah.
China's banning it. China's saying you're not allowed to go online certain days of the week if you're a kid, right? We're going to ban the kind of stuff that you can see. So in the long run, which civilization is going to be more durable? The one that actually understands the vulnerabilities of human nature, or the one that says we're going to use those vulnerabilities to make you feel
like China literally has talent farms for Twitch streamers, okay? Like it's so nuts to just act like the world's single-handedly largest consumer of like mobile games and single-handedly largest consumer of like fucking just everything electronic is actually simultaneously taking serious measures to stop people from engaging in the internet and in the online space. Motherfucker also only loves China when he suspects that they are, in a very authoritarian capacity, stopping people from doing what they want to do on the internet. Like, this is wild.
Feel subjectively happier. I think I'm amazed.
Like, China, terrible when it comes to building high-speed rail. Very bad. Not good at all. China, not good at distributing the overwhelming amount of wealth that they've been able to fucking capture from greedy American capital owners by throwing their labor force at the problem, but still, trying to build certain parts of the economy in a very effective way and eradicating poverty through socialized programs. Very bad. China, very good when they stop you from playing video games, even though they're not, but I thought that they are because I read an article that said that they are.
Amazed at the level of conditioning. Here's what killed me about the pandemic, honestly. What killed me? The level of conditioning that it took in order to rejigger how people think was so low. It shocked the hell out of me. It really shocked me. I was talking with my business partner, Jeremy Boring, about this, and early on in the pandemic, he was like, people aren't going to stand for this. Like, when they'd shut everything down, it's like 3 months from now, people are going to be losing their minds. They're going to be out on the streets protesting to get...
Wow, dude, how brilliant. You said that people were not going to like being trapped indoors during a pandemic.
Get rid of the masks, and they're going to be out at ball games again. I was like, that's not right. I think it'll take a year. We're like a year and a half in, and half the country's still like, well, what if this just kind of continues? Like, all right, I guess. Like, the amount of dependency that was bred by people saying, just go back to your house, and people be like...
Who the fuck? That's not even true, dude. What the fuck? First of all, humans are... The most profound capability of human beings is their capacity to adapt to circumstances, okay? Like, we make the most of the situation that we're forced into. So that's not really like a incredible fucking assessment. But even then, people absolutely fucking hated it. Like, this idea that human beings love being trapped indoors is so fucking categorically false. And you can see that with foot traffic. You can see that with the willingness that people had to become move into the post-pandemic world. You can measure that with how much COVID spread. It's like a very specific subsect of people that personally are like either agoraphobic or have social anxiety that wanted to stay indoors and were most likely staying indoors regardless unless they were forced to, that are not fucking doing that. But other than that, most people want to go outside. That's crazy.
Human beings are really adaptable. And this is something that Brett Weinstein and Heather Heying talk about, right? That's our superpower. We're super duper adaptable.
Yeah.
So we're super adaptable.
To our own detriment.
Sometimes to our own detriment. So if we change our social circumstances radically in a way that's unhealthy for us, and we are now interacting with technologies that were built to take advantage of our lizard brain.
You hate to see that. I'm going to be honest with you. You fucking hate to see that. When you're in agreement with Brett Weinstein.
Yeah.
Then what happens when there are people who are just not engaging in the same... They're not playing the same game
dude.
that we are. Right? We're essentially drugging ourselves. Robert Nozick is the libertarian philosopher. He talks at one point about what he calls the experience machine. It's the thought experiment. And the experience machine is basically VR. He's writing this in early 1960s. He says, what if there was a machine where you could plug into it, you'd feel the illusion of choice, you'd feel as though your choices had some sort of significance, and it would give you the dopamine hit that you get in regular life. Would you plug into it or would you not?
Right.
And his theory was you wouldn't plug into it because you still want to feel like your life has real-world consequences. But what if everybody you know is in that experience machine? Then you're the one who gets left out if you're not in the experience machine.
What is real world? I mean, that's what the problem is. That analogy was created before the sophistication of computer systems has reached the point now where you can look at it 20 years from now and you kind of get an understanding of where it's going to be. When you're dealing with what's possible now, I don't think you're going to be able to stop people from doing it because I think it's going to be so overwhelmingly addictive. You look at how many people are just addicted to looking at their Instagram.
Yep.
It's
TikTok.
so simple.
Yeah.
It's nothing. I mean, it's nothing. The dopamine hit you get off of this little phone, it's minimal, but people are completely all in on it.
Yep. And I think that what I do wonder if there's going to be, and I wonder what you think about this, if there's going to be a bifurcation in the same way there's been a bifurcation about so many issues between the people at the top of sort of the elite spectrum and the rest of the population, where the people at the elite spectrum are making the metaverse, but their kids aren't actually in the metaverse.
Right. Like Steve Jobs didn't let his kid use an iPad.
Exactly. Like, I'm on the internet. My kids are 7, 5, and 1. They're not allowed. We don't have the TV on in our house. My kids.
Wait, so he's saying he's one of the elites? What the fuck? He's like, I'm not letting my kids do that shit. Also, I am simultaneously on the internet all the time and make a living off of the internet. But I will not let my kids be on the internet. Do people not realize how shit VR is right now? Yeah, people don't get it. People that talk about VR in this way have actually never used a VR system. Because it would take you about 15 minutes before you feel like you want to throw up if you ever fucking touched a VR system as it is currently, and how bulky it is, how expensive it is, and how, like, unfortunately, and I love the idea, I love the concept, but like VR is not great right now. It's with the exponential growth of technology, who knows? Maybe we can get there in like 10 years. People say 50. I think you could get there in 10. But this notion that, like, we're going to be trapped in this VR world, like it's going to be like the Matrix, this false reality. I think it's understandable to be afraid of that. I don't think that's necessarily the wrong take. I do think that the internet has harmed us. It's been incredible, but it's also harmed us in like many different ways that we simply currently still do not understand. Okay? So I don't necessarily disagree with both what Ben Shapiro and Joe Rogan are saying right now. We aren't going to experience exponential growth like that in 10 years. I don't know, man. Who knows? So this is an Oculus Rift. Good one. I mean, one of the earliest pioneers of VR, kind of behind that take, so it's reasonable in my opinion. He's a Stanford professor. No, I don't think that's the wrong thing. Like, think about how much the Instagram points that you get, how much they how much they affect your real life, like your point of view IRL. We do things in the real world, in the physical space, in an effort to gain points in the fake world that we have created, with a fake system that we've created in that fake world, to get a rush of dopamine. And it can be good, but it also can create a lot of mental health complications. If only there was a way to, I don't know, make the real world, the physical space that we exist in, feel more rewarding, more fulfilling. Maybe if we had some more time to ourselves to pursue activities that are fulfilling, for example. Maybe we lacked, I don't know, didn't feel so much alienation from our labor. That could be one reason. I don't know. Maybe we could feel like we could effectively communicate change if we wanted to. Nah, fuck that. That's not how it works. That would be ridiculous. I think all streamers have this take. Yeah, I mean, look, the guy above this said you dig in your ass and smell it before licking it. Didn't know we had something in common. What? And then you have that, and I'm like, just what the fuck?
Don't watch TV. My kids don't get internet access until like 18. Like, that is not a thing I want.
18?
They can be out of my house and they can get internet.
Rebel. They're going to do drugs. They're going to be in the street. The kids are going to turn tricks.
Well,
it's going to be a real problem. It's going to be a real problem.
Mom was literally dying IRL because of GTRP. Yeah, I mean, Grand Theft Auto roleplay was actively killing me. That is true. Like, you make merch for chat, but chat is fake? What do you mean? It isn't fake, though. We have real interaction with real people online. It's not the same as real interactions in the physical space, though. Let's be real. Like, it's just not. And also, I made very real merch, motherfucker. Come on.
problem.
That's a pretty wild ride you took me on there, Joe. That's really upsetting.
That's what I do.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
that was. We went straight from my kids aren't watching Coco Melon to they're turning tricks in the streets
Turning
of
tricks
Florida.
is such a great term. It sounds so cute for what it actually is.
Yeah.
You know, it's a terrible thing, but it sounds like cute. Oh, they're turning tricks.
Yeah, Ben doesn't want his daughters watching the Hasanabi broadcast and then becoming little socialists. You know what I mean? That's why he doesn't want them on the internet.
Like, if you didn't understand English, you'd be like, oh, they're the magicians? You know, like, no.
Of a sword.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, we're going to limit, but I think that's one of the stories. If we're talking about the elite kind of versus everybody else gap,
Maybe.
everything that
if
gets
they're
created
that
is
concerned about their children.
But you see with everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like people promulgating technologies and value systems they don't actually live in.
Right.
And then everybody who is watching is like, I will do that.
Right.
And then those people themselves don't do it.
Watch the entire episode for free.
His daughters are gonna what? Oh, jeez, don't say that. It's so good, so fucking good, dude. It's me, I'm Kevin.